I mostly read public domain books here on Glenn Reads Books to You, and they were written a long time ago, so they're usually racist, or sexist, or bigoted, but in there somewhere is a story, and that's why those stories are famous. Other times, I read works from independent authors, and they're delightfully not racist, but they might have adult language or adult situations, like, making sex. So that's your warning, but I'm sure you're grown up enough to handle it. Don't write to me complaining. Both kids are away at college, and I'm here alone with my wife. Oh, son of a... Really? All right, take a seat, you little idiot. I can't believe you don't have anyone else to read books to you. Or if you learn to read, you could read your own goddamn books. But instead, you keep coming back here all the time, forcing me to continue to read this horseshit book that I once thought was, okay. Welcome to the Glenn Reads Gothic Horror to You mansion. It's a fun little bit where I pretend to live in a mansion and not just recording in my basement. This is where I read the hottest public domain books and short stories. This week, we're going to continue reading Ringstones by Sarban. Want to learn a little bit about the author? I hope so, because I stole all this from Wikipedia. John William Wall was born the 6th of November, 1910, and died the 11th of April, 1989. John William Wall, whose pen name was Sarban, was a British actor, writer, just a writer, not an actor. I don't know why I said that. It's literally not on my script, but I just said it anyways, because I want him to be an actor, and diplomat. Wall's diplomatic career lasted more than 30 years, but his writing career as Sarban was brief and not prolific. Ending during the early 1950s, Sarban is described in the Encyclopedia of Fantasy as a subtle, literate teller of tales, conscious of the darker and less acceptable implications that underlie much of popular literature. Wall cited the supernatural fiction of Arthur Machen and Walter de la Mare as, I said that very cool, as if I know French, as influences on his work. Well, to waste space, do you want to hear some fun facts I stole from jaminamontro.wixsite.com? It's the 10 things you probably did not know about Gothic literature article that they wrote. In the Chase Victorian era, Gothic literature provided an outlet for the exploration of sexuality. This appears in the trope of the doomed romance, as in Edgar Allan Poe's Annabel Lee, or the appearance of a demonic lover figure, such as the bloodthirsty vampire in Bram Stoker's Dracula. There were variants of Gothic genre. They were black novels. It had gained popularity in France. Another variant is a shudder novel. It had the same popularity in Germany. Both of the genres were so much gory and gruesome that the regular Gothic novels, I can't read. It's been a while since I've done an episode. Gothic novels have been scaring us for 250 years, is another point to make. Another point, John Polidori wrote The Vampire, the first vampire story to be written in English. The novel introduces the bionic hero to Gothic. He is the attractive, dangerous outsider whose struggles with melancholy will feature in numerous classics of the genre. On the publication, The Vampire is incorrectly attributed to Byron instead of Polidori, to the annoyances of both writers, but the novel is a success and sparks a craze for similar vampire tales. Okay, well, that's grandfather clock telling me to shut up. Why don't we go downstairs and read this story? Well, here we go, making you happy again. I'm going to sit here and read to you, even though I've got stuff going on in my own life. Nobody seems to care. Both my kids are in college now, except for my lustrous wife. The house is pretty empty, and also one of our cats has passed away. So it's getting quieter and quieter. The amount of warm bodies in this house is getting smaller and smaller. We now have me, my wife, a cat that pisses everywhere, and a dog. And that's it. It's getting smaller and smaller around here. We used to have an extra cat and a kid, but now that's all gone. So it's getting weird for us. We just kind of all four of us sit in the living room and just stare at each other. But we're so intent on staring at each other that we don't even bother to turn on YouTube and watch something or watch a movie, or we just sit there in silence. The automatic lights come on, and all of a sudden we're all kind of blink for a second, and then we just continue to stare at each other. It's getting weird. But you don't care. You just want me to read a book. You don't care about my personal life. That's fine. Don't touch that. You're touching that thing. Don't touch that. That's an ashtray. You don't know what to even do with that. Just put that down. Put it down. Chapter 10. It was a very shamefaced account of my adventures that I gave Dr. Ravlin that evening. After a bath, I felt the worse for them. Physically, my feet ached from stumbling in wet shoes over the heather roots, but I had escaped blisters. However, I suppose I must have spoken with some feeling about the mental impression the moor had made on me. Dr. Ravlin looked at me curiously when I told him about my fright in the dreary tract of pools. He quoted something which I think was Greek, and then explained, "Your sensations, have been shared by other people in lonely places. And since buses and bicycles," I don't know why I'm giving this weird lisp right now. I'm just bored, "led people to give up on using the path over to Stein's Head. Ringstones moor is a lonely place. I felt them once myself long ago in a desolate land, and I knew that the voice of the pilot, famous, heard was a lying voice. Great Pan is not dead. He frequents his holy places still, and if we trespass, there is the fear of him that falls upon us." "I thought Pan was a kindly god," I said. "Yeah, but that place was evil, and I was afraid of something." "Oh, why, so was the Syrinx, which she fled from Pan," said the doctor. "That is the very duality of divinity. The god has always two aspects, one beneficent, one maleficent, nor are they always distinct. The two aspects may be represented in the same act, or I shall say that every good act is doubled by an evil one, just as every gift of fairies, who, by the by, might well be Pan's representatives on these moors, turns out to have some disastrous condition attached to it. Their gold in the morning is a stone, or their invitation to the night's revels holds the unfortunate mortal in the century's slavery." "What? I think I should almost have been glad to meet a fairy this afternoon for all that," I said, thinking of Neumann sitting like a pixie on a stone. "Well," said Dr. Ravlin quite gravely, "it would be interesting, if not surprising, if you had. The body of serious testimony to the frequenting of the part is considerable, though it is true the last recorded encounters were not recent." "You speak as if you took them seriously yourself," I said. "Seriously? Yes. As seriously as I take any human belief which science tells us is erroneous, but which yet has its significant monuments in literature or folklore in stone. It has been argued, that these little men, elves, pixies, and gnomes of our great-grandfathers are no other than the gods of our remoter ancestors, or, some suggest, an ancient people whose ancestors displaced the little mental men of whom Olus Magnus and Parsilius speak. A shy population possessing arts unknown to the invaders, their memory still lingers around the earthworks and the stone circles which were thought to be of their building. Since people have ceased to see them as fairies, which have degenerated into vapid little wisps of things in books for children written, as it were, at second hand, they have become the memories of memories. But once they were powerful and feared, so should you meet one on the moor. Miss Hazel, be circumspect in your dealings with him." "All right, I will," I said. "Up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen. I'll take Neumann with me next time. I'm sure he'd be quite at home with little men." I was not long in going to bed that night. On the way upstairs, I looked into the housekeeper's room to say a word to Mrs. Sarkassian. She was sitting by the window, mending one of the girls' white linen frocks in the failing light. I said, I don't know, something sympathetic about mending and making do. Yes, she said. Them two don't take no thought for their clothes. Look here at what Marvin's done this afternoon. She showed me the impressive rent in the side of her frock. Some rip, I said. Oh, she couldn't have done that this afternoon. She was wearing her jersey and shorts. Mrs. Sarkassian shook her head. Oh, they was this morning, she said. But they changed in their frocks as soon as you'd gone, and Marvin done this on an old nail in the attic after tea. I only seen it when they come down for supper just afore you came in. Well, I suppose I was overtired. My brain just would not function clearly. But though I puzzled over what Miss Sarkassian had said all the time I was undressing while I snuggled drowsily down into bed, I could not make head or tail of it. But why it mattered whether they had been wearing their white frocks or brown jerseys that afternoon, I could not quite decide. This little problem, my tiredness and my panic of the afternoon, all worked hard in my subconscious mind, no doubt, to produce the curious dream I had that night. I dreamt that I woke in the middle of the night. Does that blow your mind? Aware of an unusual noise. I sat up and, I looked around the room. The clouds had covered the sky all day and cleared away, and it was moonlight. My window was open. The night was very... Don't touch that. Seriously, stop messing with... If I'm going to read this to you, stop messing with my stuff. Put it down. Put it down. In quick succession, then a pause and a few isolated taps. Then another quick tattoo. What? And then another pause, and so on. She got a quick tattoo, like really fast, just like something on her forearm. The noise was quite inexplicable. I had heard nothing like it before Ringstones. I got out of bed and listened at the open window. There, it seemed to me that the noise was coming from the back of the house. It was fainter and more distant, I thought, than if it had been anywhere else close at hand in the park. I told them to stop doing the tattoo on my forearm, even though it was not completely finished. Snoopy was still almost holding a football. And I said, no, stop. So my bedroom door was open, and the passage was a window that looked out of the back toward the old stables. I went out, listened at that window. I thought I heard a noise much more distinctly. From there, it sounded exactly like something hammering in the old stables. I don't know why in my dream I felt such curiosity to see what was producing the sounds. Oh, I do. I know what kind of dream this is going to be. But in the dreams, one sometimes seems to act with more decision than in waking. I went back to my room, put on my dressing gown and slippers. This dream is meticulous. And crept quietly down the back door, which I opened very cautiously to avoid waking anyone else. My dreams are never this detailed. Like, time doesn't pass like that when I dream something. I remember I did not feel the least frightened. Outside, in the black and silver of the night, I listened. The noise had ceased, but I had been so sure of where it came from that I went without hesitation down the path to the stables. I felt it's in the stables. Oh, Lord, this is naughty. I felt distinctly the chill of the night air through my thin dressing gown and the cold harness of the flags through my slippers. I did not know of what my picture of the stable yard was built up, for I had never been inside it for my waking life. I had seen its two big carriage doors from the outside. That was all. Now it seemed to me they were open a little way. I slipped through and found myself in a flagged court, with a stable and coach house doors around three sides and a stone horse through the center. In the middle, a stone horse? All right, like a statue of a horse in the center. I don't know, whatever. In the middle of the roof ridge of the block of the buildings facing the gates was what I believe is called in architecture a lantern, with a weather vane in the shape of a running fox, quite clearly to be seen in the moonlight. That, I suppose, I may have seen from the outside. One other thing I noticed, which I could not have seen in reality, was that the handle on the iron pump at the end of the horse trough, was finished off with a kind of flourished curl, like a heraldric lion's tail, and the lead spout was in the form of a gaping lion's head. As I stood, looking round, the clinking, hammering noise began again. In the far right-hand corner of the yard, a pair of double doors stood open. One toward me, standing out into the yard as to prevent my seeing into the place. A dim, smoky red light was coming from there. Oh, a red light. Were you hear hammering? From there, from also came the noise. The moon cast an inky black shadow all along the right-hand side of the yard, and I slipped up into the shadow and put my eye into the chink between the door and its jamb. You might not be prepared for what you see in there. It sounds almost like an 80s movie with a dramatic red light. As in dreams, one takes the queerest eccentricities of behavior or dress as a matter of course, so I don't remember that I felt much surprise at what I saw, only an absorbing interest. In the middle of the space inside the doors was an anvil. Beyond it was a kind of blacksmith's forge, from which a red glow came that lit the scene. With his back to me, stripped to the waist, with the skin shining rosy in the light, stood Circassian, welding the hammer. Opposite him, entirely stripped as far as I could see, weird, was Nuaman. His skin looking a rich gold in the firelight. So Circassian stripped to the waist, and Nuaman is entirely stripped. This is getting sensual. I don't like how they keep sexualizing this little boy. Why is the little boy completely naked? Why not the old man is hammering away? He was striking with the smaller hammer. Between them on the anvil was a curiously carved bar of shining metal, which was being held in place with a pair of long tongs by an impish-looking little brown-skinned boy, crop-headed, sharp-eared, and as bare as Nuaman. Okay, at the forge was another couple of naked brown boys. God, I am really uncomfortable. Why did I think this book was good? One pumping the bellows and the other stirring something in the coals. Oh, I noticed the sweat glistening on their skins. Circassian plied his heavy hammer, and Nuaman came down rapidly with his light one. Between them, that they were making the ringing, irregular music I had heard from my room. They were working fast and concentrating with a fixity that was truly dreamlike on what they were doing. What really held my interest was more that Circassian Newman, or the strange boys, however, was something that stood back a little between the anvil and the forge, half a deep shadow, half of the red glow of the fire, though at every stroke of the bellows, the glow brightened and leapt out, to give a glimpse of the other half of the strange object. It was a kind of chariot, delicate, elegant, and shining with polished metalwork. It's a sort of skeleton thing that looked extremely light and maneuverable, with the spokes of its wheels flashing and raying in the glow and the red reflection leaping along its curving front rail. Its slender pole sloped up away from me, and I saw at the end of it only by snatches as the forge fire alternately glowed and dimmed. It seemed to me that one side of the pole was furnished at the tip with just a curving bar or a bow as Circassian and Nuaman were forging the anvil. And from this bar there dangled some complicated kind of leather harness, among which I clearly saw, as the leaping brightness momentarily illuminated it, the two glinting metal rings, one of which I was quite firmly convinced was my watch strap. Okay. And on this chariot, that all the feeling of my dream was concentrated. The litheness of the shining curves, the changing light that seemed to give its sinuous shape a kind of breathing life, and the harness hanging empty at its bar, all had some sharp, particular meaning for me. But I knew it was an inanimate thing, and at the same time, I knew that I was there. I was terrified of it. It was waiting for me, and Nuaman and Circassian were plying their hammers with demon-like haste to get it ready. Circassian, Nuaman, the strange boys, had not seen me, but it had. It winked and leered at me through the chink of the door. I turned and ran on tiptoe out of the yard, back to the house, inside, up the stairs, in the winged lightness of a nightmare. I threw off my dressing gown and jumped shivering back into bed. At my real awakening, which was in the brilliant light of the perfect morning, I remembered every detail that scene had for a long time, and could not believe that I had not actually been up and out of the old stables in the night. I even felt my slippers to see if they were damp from the dew. Oh, of course, they were quite dry. Indeed, I reflected, there wasn't much sense in feeling them. Since if I had, in fact, taken the route I dreamt, I should have been on flags all day and would have touched no wet grass. But then, as I sat on my bed pondering the thing, I was able to see from what different scattered incidents the ideas of the whole picture was compromised. The oddest thing now seemed to me something that in my dream that was not surprised me at all. I mean, the presence of the strange boys. Nah, I can see now that was in our little talk of little men. All little metal workers. The night before I had suggested them. Also, the puzzle over Marvin and Ianthe being dressed when I saw them near the old mine differently from what Miss Sarkassian had said that they must have dressed at that hour may have been something to do with it. I could see that my subconscious mind, dealing with the puzzle out of which I had fallen asleep, might have suggested that the explanation, quite reasonable when reason slept, was that the brown figures I had seen in the glen were not Marvin and Ianthe at all. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place even while I was sitting and pondering it. I became aware of a tiny irregular ringing sound, just like that which I had thought had wakened me in the night, but diminished now and all but drowned by the stir of the noise of the day. My bedroom door was open. Opposite it was the bathroom door, also open. I went across, and there I found the wash basin. Nearly full of water, and a tap dripping into it with a clear, bell-like little noise. I must have put back the plug without thinking after I'd washed the previous night, and when sufficient water had accumulated from the dripping tap, my sleeping ear had caught the sound magnified by the silence of the night. Well, great. With that, why don't we go down to the basement, which is totally normal. Stop getting weird about it, and I can let you know about the latest upcoming books from Penguin Random House. Well, good, you made it. Not that I care. I was just hanging out down here, playing my guitar underneath this naked light bulb, facing this empty folding chair underneath that naked light bulb. Just, I don't know, like if you showed up and you wanted to sit underneath it, that's cool. I wouldn't care. I'd just be here doing this anyway. It's not like I need you. I don't feel rejected because both my kids are off at college and they left me alone. Which makes me think, this basement... it's pretty gross. It used to be really cool for a while, but then I had to get rid of all because the basement got flooded. Maybe I should do something more from my generation. Like, I should do something that I always poo-pooed and thought was stupid, but now that I'm older, maybe I kind of want to embrace it a little bit more. Maybe I want a man cave. Maybe I want a man cave with a bar and a big screen TV. Maybe I'll actually start watching sports. I'm going to have to figure out what sports I even like, since I don't watch any of them and I find them all boring. Do I want to watch men with beautiful bodies running across a football field or a tennis court or a hockey? I don't know. But maybe I'll make this a man cave. That's the kind of thing that people do, especially when they're in a deeply unhappy marriage. Which brings me to the book I want to read to you, or let you know about from Penguin Random House, Marriage Be Hard. 12 conversations to keep you laughing, loving, and learning with your partner by Kevin Fredericks and apparently his wife, Melissa Fredericks. They both look a little disheveled on their book cover. They look like they don't really know what they're doing. A little surprised, a little shocked. This is going to be fun. Shut up. This is fun. New York Times bestseller, Discover the Keys to Upholding Your Vows While Staying Sane. In this hilariously candid guide to relationships from the husband and wife team of comedian Kevin Fredericks and influencer Melissa Fredericks. This is the finals for the NAACP Image Award. Kevin and Melissa are not afraid to tell the truth. Tabitha Brown from the New York Times bestselling author of Feeding the Soul. Again, the New York Times bestselling author thing, you can pick the weirdest category. You can make your own categories. I'm going to make a book about cats and piss. And those are two categories. And if you're the one that wrote it, no one else has written a book on those two categories, you become the best-selling New York Times best-selling author. So the fact that Tabitha Brown has a Feeding the Soul book, who knows what her categories are? Is she really that great? I don't know. I don't pay attention to shit like this. Growing up, Kevin and Melissa Fredericks were taught endless rules around dating, sex, and marriage, but not a lot about what actually makes the relationships work. When they first got married, no, they felt alone. Like every other couple, had perfect chemistry while the two of them struggled. Well, there conversations that they didn't know that they needed to have, fears that affected how they related to each other, and seasons of change that put their marriage to the test. This book doesn't sound hilarious at all. It's actually very real stuff. Like, it actually sounds like a helpful book so far. Part of their story reads like a Christian fairy tale. Oh boy, here we go. High school sweethearts, married in college, never sowed any wild oats, with 2 sons and a thriving marriage. But there's another side of their story. The night Melissa kicked Kevin out of their car after years of communication problems. The time that their marriage, when Kevin bordered on the emotional affair. The way he probably just had an affair. I think he convinced her he had an emotional affair. I think he just had an affair. The way they use social media and podcasts, conduct a no-holds-barred conversation about forbidden topics like jealousy, divorce, and how to be Christian and sex positive. Crisis, another Christian. When Christians write books on stuff, their rules of their religion are so constrictive. Christians writing about sex is just like sad to watch. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I'm not getting into this. Why am I getting into this? I think I just don't like that we got like another Christian writing a book about relationships. They have the worst relationships. I know a lot of Christians. All their relationships are terrible. Because, as Kevin writes, your hormones don't care about your religious beliefs. Your hormones want you to subscribe to OnlyFans. It's because you're a human being. I'm not talking about religion. I'm not going to complain about Christianity. I've already said too much. In Marriage Be Hard, the authors provide a hilarious and fresh master class on what it takes to build and maintain a lasting relationship. Drawing on interviews with experts in nearly 2 decades of marriage, they argue that, one bullet point, compatibility is overrated. Actually, no. My wife and I are doing pretty good with the compatibility thing. 2, communication is about way more than simply talking. I don't know. We talk. We do pretty good. Seeing divorce as an option can actually help your marriage. That seems bleak. There's actually a thing as healthy jealousy. Oh my God, these two are not going to... They're writing a book to save their marriage. These two are falling apart right now, and not even Jesus can save it. Healthy jealousy? Real marriage is not automatic. It ain't no Tesla on the open road, which is a shitty car. Everyone knows it's a shitty car. Sometimes it's a stick shift on a hill in the rain with no windshield wipers. Actually, a stick shift is the best thing to drive in winter snow or rain, because you have control. Everything's backwards in this book, but if you get comfortable visiting and revisiting the topics that matter, it can transform your bond with your partner and the life you're building together. Oh, Lord, nothing is fun right now. This is supposed to be funny, and this is not fun. Written for those tired of unrealistic relationship books. And for anyone wondering if they're the only ones breaking all the rules, Marriage Be Hard is a breath of fresh air, doesn't sound like it, and the manual you wish existed after you said, I do. Oh my God, these guys are going to be divorced in no time. This is going to be available September 9th, which is coming up only a few days after recording this, and I will bet you by September 9th of next year, these two are no longer married. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Bookshop.org, Hudson Booksellers, Powell's, Target, and Walmart. Well, with that, and the little mini rant I went on about religion, because they brought it out of me, it wasn't my fault, why don't we go back upstairs and talk about something not as complicated as religion? Maybe something a little less complicated, like how this woman keeps fighting this 13-year-old boy to have a beautiful, glistening body. I'll see you upstairs. Google Alerts, google.com/alerts. Okay. Kevin Fredericks, Melissa Fredericks. Okay. Create alert. Okay, I created a Google alert for Kevin Fredericks and Melissa Fredericks. I am convinced that a year from now, these two have written a book to save their marriage, and it's not going to work. Don't touch that. It's not going to work out, and they're going to get divorced. So we'll find out. I'll get an alert, and God knows I'll be gloating over it on my show. The joy I get from other people just not doing well. Why don't we get into the story? Chapter 11. I did not tell my dream to anyone. Having so satisfactorily analyzed it for myself, I shelved it. I had awakened with a head full of detail of the queer scene and the strongest conviction of its reality. But, of course, once I became busy with the realities of the day, this conviction deserted me, and as much of the details slipped out of memory. What occupied my mind more than my dream was where I had gone wrong in my way across the moor. During the course of the morning, I went to the library to have another look at the map. There, sure enough, was a clearly marked bridle road from Blag Hill to Stein's Head, passing within half a mile of Ringstones Hall. The stone circle itself was marked and is also a private road down to the hall. It seemed as plain as a pike staff. True, the date of the map, which I discovered after some search, showed that it was 30 years old. I must, I thought, ask Dr. Ravlin if there wasn't a more modern one in the house. As I was standing, gazing at the map, Katya wandered into the room with the duster in her hand. Oh, she seemed in unusually low spirits. I spoke cheerily to her, and she came over and gazed mournfully at the map with me. I wondered what queer ideas it conveyed to her. "Look," I said, jabbing my finger at the glass about halfway between the stone circle and Stein's Head. "I lost myself there yesterday. Stupid, wasn't it?" She looked at me as solemn as a ruminating cow. What the hell, so mean, for quite a long time, then nodded and heaved a deep sigh. "I'd go one time," she said. "The road hide itself." Well, it did more than that to me. It positively erased itself. Katya pondered deeply. I had not seen her look so luxurious. I'm looking it up. I can't look it up. Here we go. Luxurious. Even the phonetic spelling isn't helping me here. Looking or sounding sad and dismal. Apparently, I just can't pronounce this word. It's been like a month since I last recorded an episode of this, so I'm getting worse at reading stuff out loud. But I realize the hopelessness of trying to get at what was weighing on her spirits. It might have been a sharp word from a Circassian in the kitchen. Or it might have been some profoundly Slavic sorrow too deep for tears. I thought it might cheer her up if I proposed going swimming in the afternoon. She nodded, but still ruminated on something that she seemed to want to tell me. At length, when she trusted herself to her slippery speech, it appeared that it was still my misadventure that she had on her mind. "Sir, no man say no go," she said. "You go. He take the road away. I stay, you stay. If you not come, perhaps I gone. Now, both stay here 100 year." "Oh, come, Katya," I said, understanding her mournful tone, if not her words. Don't you like ringstones?" She made her eyes very round. "I like," she said. "I like to now, but I fear." She laid her hand, duster and all, on my arm, with her face close to mine, spoke the word with such heavily breathed emphasis that she alarmed me, and for a second I had a most unpleasant feeling in my inwards and my knees. "Fear?" I repeated, noticing how the mere speaking of that word in a certain way can communicate the thing itself. What do you fear?" She looked all around the room, even took a pace toward the door, wavered uncertainly, and then put her back against the wall, and, looking as if she expected goodness knows what horrors to burst in upon us, pronounced in a whisper of a word, or two words, that completely baffled me, "Lest she, or perhaps lest she," I thought she said. At that very second, the door softly and suddenly opened. We were behind it, it seemed to me, such as the state of Katya's mysterious behavior had gotten into me, and the door opened of itself. My heart thumped. It was Dr. Ravlin. He did not notice us until he was halfway across the room. Katya fled, and I, having returned his absent-minded good morning a little jumpily, turned again to the map. Though I don't know just what then I saw anything that was on it. Dr. Ravin had come to get a book from the tall case by the window, and when he had taken it down, we stood and chatted. He chatted. I listened for a few moments, and then blurted out that Katya seemed to be acting very oddly. What was wrong with her? He jerked his head up. Wrong? Wrong? What do you mean, wrong? I said, his sharpness making me feel rather uncomfortable. She says she's afraid of something. He gave me a very long stare, which seemed to cover a good deal of thought. For a length, he smiled as if he understood the whole thing, and then moving away toward the window, he said, "What did she say that she was afraid of?" I told him what the strange word for she used sounded like to me, and it seemed to puzzle him, for he knitted his brows and stared hard out the window, but I suppose he was tracking it down in his own mind, for he suddenly laughed. "Oh, Lyshee?" That's as near as I could come for the way she said it. That's what she must have said. His face lit up, and he leaned comfortably against the bookcase to explain. Lyshee are the demons of the forest. To Katya, any wild place like our own moor, here is a forest. And she's afraid that if you go wandering by yourself over the moors of the Lyshee, or as she might say, the goblins will get you. She's firmly convinced that they nearly got her one day when she missed her way, that she was up there gathering bilberries. It's very interesting to me, of course. I find Katya quite believes in a legend that is current in different forms in many parts of Eastern Europe. It is said that there is a demon lord of the forest, an elf king who roams with his band of goblin huntsmen through the wild and solitary places, that they should find a mortal there, especially if it be a young girl. Straying to gather kindling or mushrooms, they seize her and carry her off to the goblin kingdom, which they say exists, all the same in the forests where the elf king roams. But their mortal eyes can't see it. These legends, always foresee the objections of the literal mind critic. There are captive. It must make sport for the elves of the period of a complete year. They endow her with more than mortal beauty in the form of face, and she, together with others whom they have captured, spends all of her time in dances and games for the entertainment of the elf king and his people. The goblin kingdom is all green lawns and glades of enchanting beauty under perpetual sunshine, and the captive quite forgets her little hut in the village and the smoky fire and the drizzling sky. Then, when the very day of her capture comes round again, she finds herself free in the very place where she was taken. The forest looks the same as it did. It is for the same season, for the same weather. And when she looks at her clothes, they are falling off with her age. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm heavily invested in this weird lisp thing that I'm trying to do for him. But when she looks at her clothes, they are falling off with her age. And she holds up her hand, and it's withered. And she is young a year ago, but now she's wrinkled. And she's hunchbacked hag. Oh, she hobbles back to the village. There she finds that during her 1 year's service with the elves, 100 mortal years have passed. Well, now, the doctor, taking a breath and stoking this leather-bound volume he was holding, it's most interesting to see the correspondences between this belief. Why am I doing this? I'm going to physically stop, which is still a living one for Katya, and some of our own fairy stories. Take, for instance, not doing it, the Northumbrians. Oh, superstition. That's a tempting word. I'm not doing it. He caught my eye and checked himself, then gave a short, apologetic laugh. Well, I mustn't mount my hobby horse. Ooh, that's also a great one to lisp. So early in the day. But if the Elf King's pastimes interest you, dip into his work sometimes. He held the thick old book up for me to see the title. I read, in letters from which the guilt had long vanished, The Secret Commonwealth. The doctor nodded, tucked his book under his arm, and marched to the door. By the by, he said, turning back to me with his hand on his knob, it's most likely that I shall have to go away for a time very soon. I trust you won't mind staying here alone. Alone, I said, not quite understanding. Of course, with the children. No, of course not, I said. I wonder, but I could not well ask any questions. We went swimming that afternoon. Katya, Marvin, Ianthe, and I. The water in our pool was never warm. My swimming was usually a few minutes energetic splashing and then a long lazing on the bank until I was hot enough to make another plunge in the chill, bright stream. desirable. Katya seemed not to feel the cold at all. Perhaps she had inured it as a child, breaking the ice to draw water from the mighty bog or Og or some other river of the steppes. She was too desperate to splash and play this afternoon. She stood up, her armpits in the middle of the pool, letting her hands float listlessly on the water and looking down in moody contemplation of her own body, which gleamed, distorted through the steam of the pale against the dark of the brown rock beneath. I'm glad that somebody's writing about this. I have a problem where if I get in a pool or a lake that's too cold, when I get in, it's like knives cutting up my skin. It is the most painful thing. When I get in the water, I'm like, ow, ow, ow. And it's a slow process, and it's horrible. My wife laughs at me with our little white trash pool we have outside, which I get in, I'm like, oh, God, this is the worst thing I've ever experienced. I hate every minute of it. And then it takes me like a half hour to get used to the water. So I'm glad, and then I have to get out. And like, I got to get real hot again before I want to go back in and deal with that again. So I'm glad somebody else is writing about it because everyone makes fun of me. The two young girls, too, stood the cold water far better than I did. See, she's talking about it, so I appreciate this from an author. When they were always active, I'm going to write my own book based on the main character getting into water and just no one understands them. This day, they were in a particularly mischievous mood. I tried to clear up the little mystery of what they had been wearing the afternoon before, but they chose to be pert and contrary. They answered yes at random to my questions, then giggled and spluttered together over some private joke. And then they spent most of their time teasing and playing tricks on each other. Ianthe had taken it into her head to wear her gay little two-piece swimming costume, which she normally wore for anything but swimming. Maravan, as usual, was swimming nude. Gross. Don't let people you hang out with swim nude. The distinction seemed to be an excruciatingly funny joke to her, half the time by sly approaches and sudden pounces in the pool and out, and she was trying to peel Ianthe's trunks off. This is not normal. How old are these people? They're tiny. But Ianthe defended them grimly. For heaven's sake, I expostulated, for the joke seemed to be one-sided, and I was getting a little tired of it. Why shouldn't she wear a costume if she wants to? That's not an argument you make. The argument you make is, stop messing with that fucking kid. I swear to God, stop trying to take that kid's clothes off. Maravan chuckled. She doesn't want. He says she must. Oh, so the boy is saying make the kids get in. God damn it. Why did I like this book? I gasped at the enormity of the fib, and Nuamon would have called it, but Maravan, snorting with laughter, swore again and again it was true, until Ianthe, seeing her opportunity, leaped on her and put an end to the matter for the time being by half drowning her. As none of us had a watch, we had to guess the time to go back for tea. Though such a long succession of sunny days, I had learned to notice the shadows of the trees to tell the time by them near enough by the way we lived at the Ringstones. In the glen, I guessed the hour, and when we got back into the park, I saw from the position the shadows of some of my well-known trees that I had guessed pretty accurately. This is boring. I had just pointed out this to Katya when it was confirmed by our meeting Circassian, trudging along the drive away from the hall with a pick and a shovel on his shoulder. He had been doing some repair work on the road up to Ringstones Moor this last day or two, and was now going up to do another spell after his tea. Little as I liked him, I admired his capacity for hard work. He was laboring at something all day long, and I spoke to him as we passed and got a sort of dark leer in reply. Katya, who ought, I suppose, to have been home before us, got the tea ready, took to her heels, and ran all the way back to the hall. Well, I did not see Nuamon till late in the evening. The girls had their supper, and I had said good night to them and gone out to stroll about the lawn in the middle of the park for a while before changing for dinner. Nuamon joined me there. I asked him how my, quote, surprise, unquote, was coming on, for I believed he had spent the whole day in his workshop. He shook his head and grinned. Now, don't be impatient. It'll soon be ready. Well, what about my watch strap, I asked. Is it to wait until you finish the other thing? Oh, yeah, watch strap, he said. Do you know, it was so badly broken I had to make a new one, but I made it just the same size to clasp your wrist exactly. Oh, it won't come off again. We walked on until we came to the circular ride, and there we turned and strolled slowly around the circuit of the park. He was in his sober, grown-up mood, and for a long time said little, until slipping his hand into mine and squeezing my fingers hard, remarkably strong ones. I hate when she does this. The author really wants to make this little boy real manly and sexual. Do you want to leave Ringstones? We had not talked about my going away before. His asking that made me swiftly reckon up at that time had remained to me and made me realize, sadly, that I had not much longer to spend there. I hate to think of parting just then, and answered his question lightly, brushing a thought aside. It'll be some time before I push off. Yeah, well, I want to keep you here forever, he said, still gripping my hand hard. Well, you can't do that, everything has an end, except a circle. Yeah. A circle, he exclaimed, but Ringstones is a circle. And look, we've made a complete circle now. As soon as we've made this, we begin another. You can never come to the end of Ringstones. Can't we? Said I. We can, then. I'm going to make tracks around this diameter of this circle and go in and change. He made no demur, and so we turned aside through the trees and walked slowly straight across the middle of the park toward the house. At the half-overgrown flat stone in the middle of the wide space of the lawn, Nuamon stopped and released my hand. It was the time of day when Ringstones was at its loveliest. Yes, and his dreaming of peace and solitude seemed inevitable and everlasting. And from that spot you saw and felt it most completely, for the softly colored hills and the rich trees and all their heaviness of summer foliage had made a complete circle around you. Now the house was hidden by a screen of copse, and it was all a visible world, only the road on the hillside, seen here and there behind the rough vegetarian that hoarded it, told of the age of the human handiwork. I knew that I could never have enough of such loveliness, and that I should never in my life again know such profound content as that which Ringstones could give me on such a summer evening. I think we are both reluctant to break the spell cast upon us there in the evening light, and by the unceasing song of birds, and the running water, and powerful is the incantation to hold the mind in thraldom. What does thraldom mean? I mean, enthralled, I'm guessing. The state of being in someone's power or having great power over someone. Oh, gross. She was enthralled to her abusive husband. Okay, this is horrible. It was broken for us, though the soft flood of music, my ear caught the thread of harder sound, the distant crunching of wheels on gravel and the rapid clip-clop of horses' hooves a long way off. Nuamon, whose ears were sharper than mine, had already heard it, was looking toward the slope of the western hill. There, presently, beyond the trees of the park, the pony trap came into view, and the pony was going swiftly up the long slope of the long road as his usual impatient trot. There was only one person in the trap, and that I guessed rather than distinctly saw was Dr. Ravlin. We watched the trap until it reached the top of the road, and there on the skyline it pulled up and was immediately surrounded, it seemed to me, by a number of figures. One tall, and a dozen or more shorter ones which came into view and further back of the moor. The sun was low over the hill, and we were looking straight up into it, and I was certain I saw the figures, but how they were dressed or who they were, I could not say. They were black shapes against the blinding golden sun, and there in a moment the trap, they had disappeared over the skyline. So, Dr. Ravlin's gone at this point of the evening, I said in wonder. But who on earth were all those people up there? Well, Nuamon looked at me, studying, I thought, my expression, but he spoke carelessly. Oh, that, he said. That's Circassian, I suppose. Yeah, well, what about the others? Oh, the people helping him on the road. He moved off slowly toward the house, thrusting his hands into his pockets and kicking the turf as he dragged his feet along, like any little boy pondering something important. Oh, she recognizes he's a little boy now. I went silently by his side. The deep sense of peace and harmony was gone. The friendly picture of the Ringstones I had grown to love had slipped aside, and my first full view of the new one revealed where it had been left with me as a weakness in all my limbs and the dreary emptiness in my heart. When Nuamon said good night to me in the hall, I could only stand and stare at his handsome, small brown face, so strangely vivacious, so complicated in its expression of triumph and delight, admiration, confidence, and power. A wilder mischief than any I had seen danced in his eyes. Halfway up the stairs, he stopped, turned, and leaned down, just as he had done the first night. Even then, there was a caressing touch in his mockery. "Good night, dear Daphne," he said. "You shall see everything tomorrow." Seeing that Dr. Ravlin had gone, I told Miss Sarkassian not to bother to lay dinner in the big dining room. I did not want to sit alone in the dusk, so I had supper with her and Katya in the housekeeper's room. A more cheerful place, but the company was a little more cheerful than my own would have been. Katya was gloomier still than she had been in the morning. I think that she had been weeping. Miss Sarkassian would not talk about anything. Even to my direct question about whether her husband had gone with Dr. Ravlin, she replied only that she supposed so, and when I talked about the work people on the road, she was silent. She sat by the window with her head bent over her mending until it was nearly dark, and I was forced to put down the magazine I had picked up to look at. Still, she would not light a candle, so we sat, all three of us, completely silent in the gloaming of the room. Suddenly, making us all jump, the door was wrenched open. Katya leapt to her feet with a little gasp of fear, and I half rose too before I saw it was only Sarkassian. I had not heard the trap return. Mrs. Sarkassian gave him a long stare, then bent over, darting that she could not possibly have seen. Sarkassian jerked his head back, and Katya sidled out of the room, squeezing past them in the doorway with a cringing movement. Just as she closed the door behind the pair of them, I thought, though it was too dark to be sure, I thought I saw him put his free hand on her shoulder. Okay, well, that's the end of that claptrap. Why don't we go down to the smoking room and review what the hell we just read? Well, there you are. You finally made it down. Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you reach over there? You can see on the coffee table in front of us, there's a baboon skull. And if you take that top of the skull... Christ. Every time I go for a gap without recording an episode, I kind of forget about the birds. Take the top off the baboon skull. There's cigarettes. You can go ahead and smoke a cigarette. Well, I'll be like the cool older guy that lets you smoke cigarettes. Well, what did we learn in this couple chapters? She had a weird dream, so we're finally getting somewhere. He talked about how he's making something for her, and she had this prophetic dream about some kind of, like, horse cart. Like, he's going to make her a horse. And I think they said that, like, at the edge of the horse cart was, like, the wristband, or maybe on the table or something. I don't know. The watch band. So he's going to get around to the watch band, but God damn it, he's going to make this cart for her. So it's a dream that was very meticulous and very realistic, and so it was probably a real prophetic dream. She admitted getting lost by the Ringstones, whatever, telling Katya about it, saying, like, I was walking around there, and then the road just disappeared, and then Katya was like, oh, yeah, Nuamon makes the road disappear. That's another trip. Nude swimming. People are trying to rip each other's clothes off. They're all probably just like kids. I don't know, man. I don't know why I thought this book was good. It's turning out to be real gross. I get that Nuamon... I'm just going to say this. I'm sure you probably caught on if you actually listen to all these. Nuamon's like a fairy or an elf or something. And so that's why he's supposed to be, like, handsome and older, even though he's, like, 15 years old. So, fine, whatever. The rest of them, gross. What's with the kids stuff? And I don't get Sarkassian putting his hand on his wife's shoulder, or was it her shoulder? I don't know. Whatever. So, I regret deciding to read this thing, because I don't know what I saw in it that I thought was so good the first time around. But, well, anyways, thanks for listening, and at some point I'll keep reading more of this, and God help me, I'm going to get through it. And I'm going to read some other gothic romance that's hopefully less complicated. Well, it appears you found me in the part of the podcast I hate the most, where I tell you all about the places on the internet where you can find me. You can tell I hate this because of the sound effects making it sound like a stormy night. in the drawing room of the damned. Now, are you cool? I like cool people. It's the reason why I got involved in this business to begin with, just to meet cool people, not losers. So if you're cool, feel free to go over to my website, nuzzlehouse.com. Don't bother looking for us on social media because we've given it all up after the election with how evil everyone is from Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I shut it all down. But you can find us on Blue Sky, nuzzlehouse.bsky.com. I don't know. We got a Christmas album on our website, which we should do. Everyone should do when they get married, make a Christmas album. We got Just Stay in the Curious Mind, where we make paranormal smut, Masterpiece Auditorium review books, and Two Things, One Cup with Elton from Elton Reads a Book a Week. And since I think you might be cool, you can always just email me directly, glenn.nuzzles@gmail.com. But don't email if you're a nerdlinger or a dork. Now, back to business. I can't believe I drank all of them already. There's got to be one left.